But my concern, as someone who lives in Indonesia, in Bali, my concern is more whether United States will blow up the world, right? And so, so
it's a fair
think,
concern. And returning to the show, my friend Carl Zaw. How you doing, man?
How are you, Kyle?
Excellent. And we're not all dead. We were told that if Trump got elected again, we'd have World War III and the world would end. But we're still here so far. Although, despite Biden's worst attempts to make that so.
Yeah, I mean, Biden is just doing a Dark Brandon moment. I mean, this is a real Dark Brandon coming out. And now he's like, you know what? I'm going out. Trump is going in. So I'm going to leave him an absolute mess. So I'm going to Biden actually just a few months back before the election, Biden actually overruled to grant permission to Ukraine for use longer strike range missile to strike Russia at that time, because he looks like, okay, he was still going to be the Democratic candidate when he still had plans for the future. Right. Now he's like, you know what? Screw you all. I'm going to go wander off the Amazonian jungle and lick my ice cream. Good luck.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did too. I didn't watch that video until Monday night. And it is the funniest thing ever. You think he would have made a beeline for the path that was like pretty clear, but he was going for the woods. I didn't get to see I just saw like that little 10-second clip, but it's like, where are you going, bro? Like, I almost want to feel bad for him. I mean, he really epitomizes everything that's wrong with the American system today. But at the same time, it's like, man, he's like 87 years old. Do you really think he knows what he's doing? Who knows?
Did you see what happened later in G20 in Rio de Janeiro? Like, they were supposed to do a group photo shoot for the G20 leaders, but Biden was late, so the rest of the G20 leaders like, you know what? Let's just have the photo anyway. Forget about him. And you have the U.S. journalists yelling on the side, like, "Wait, what are you doing? Wait for Biden." They're like, no, we're just gonna have our photo.
You seem so far left.
Oh my God, yeah, that sounds about right. So,
but my concern, as someone who lives in Indonesia, in Bali, my concern is more whether United States will blow up the world, right? And so,
it's a fair concern.
I think at least in Asia Pacific, I think the interest is low on say like a Taiwan issue touching off a war, because in Taiwan, the thing with Taiwan is the Taiwan government will never do anything without explicit approval and backing by United States. And China and mainland China is very clear on what the red line is on Taiwan. Is don't declare formal independence. That would be a red line. That would be a trigger for war. So only if the U.S. is dead set on touching off World War III by telling the Taiwan government to declare formal independence, then I don't think war is likely to break up in the Taiwan Strait. I mean, for all the rhetorics of little Marco, I don't think I think the cooler heads in Pentagon will prevail. They'll probably tell him to cool off. Look, we still want to retire comfortably to in Bahamas. Get our whiff from the military-industrial complex, get our paybacks, and retire. We don't want to blow up the world. So tension. U.S. is still interested very much in maintaining tension all over East Asia, but I don't think they're ready to really touch off World War III. Now Ukraine is a different issue because we already talked about Biden is setting Trump up to fail. Trump wants to pull back from Ukraine. That's his state. Remember Trump said 24 hours from his
he'll settle the war within 24 hours as president-elect. But the one thing that I always try to put a pin in here, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but like back in April or May, he helped. I mean, other congressmen called him and got his blessing. Even Mike Johnson got his blessing to pass the largest foreign aid package in history, which included aid for Ukraine. So I've heard you talk about this on other streams. I think it was Red Pill Diaries and even on the Revolutionary Blackout Network. I think you and I are in agreement here that I don't think Trump ever really, it sounded good to say you were going to end the Ukraine war, but I don't think he ever really had a plan for it. Like, it was like when he got asked about healthcare. I have a concept of a plan. You don't have a plan. You just have a concept of a plan. And then when he really got pressed on it, what did he say? Oh, I'll tell Ukraine that they better, back off, or else I'm going to leave them high and dry. And I'm going to tell Russia that I'll give Ukraine everything they want. But then really, like, all the people in his cabinet have pretty much said, like, hey, we're just going to give Ukraine everything they want, but it's going to be a loan instead of just given to them, which basically means status quo.
Yeah, and also like the Ukrainian battlefield is totally favoring Russia right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Russia is looking to end the war on their own terms. They're not
Right.
even looking to America doing anything. I mean, they'll probably prefer U.S. lift the sanctions on Russia, but in terms of Ukraine war, that's their top priority. That's their red line. They don't want NATO next door, so they're going to finish that war on their own terms. Right now everything is going in their way. And yeah, like Biden just left a big FU by authorizing longer missile strike into Russia. Yeah, I don't think Trump is going to win this one. Like this, too much at stake. Too many jobs and careers at stake for all the NATO bureaucrats, all the Atlantis institutions. They all depend on this, and Ukraine has been very, very lucrative. Ukraine and Israel. If you look at the stock price of Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, they got the first jump in their stock price after the Russia's special military operation, and then they got a huge ramp up after October 7th. They're reeking money head over heels right now. They don't want this to end. I mean, they might. I think there will probably be check on. There will be some limits on the Ukraine. What they probably want to do is make it a frozen conflict. Going back to Ukraine like before 2014, where U.S. is still backing Ukraine financially, but like no hot kinetic war at the front line. You will still have armies face off against each other, but no major push like invasion of Kursk in Russian soil or something like that. And it's likely that they're going to pull back on the granting permission of long range missile strike into Russia. Because first of all, we don't even know how many missiles Ukraine has. I mean, U.S. could just simply not supply them anymore. I mean, then they'll have nothing. So I think Ukraine conflict will be contained to not trigger a World War III scenario, but it will probably still go on for foreseeable future, just because this is how the arms dealers make their money.
Right. Yeah. And that seems to be probably a profitable venture for them, where they still get to kind of sell arms, whether that be under the guise of being just given to Ukraine or being a loan. So one thing I also wanted to touch on there, because you mentioned Taiwan briefly. Ever since 2022 in August, when Nancy Pelosi decided to make her little trip over there, we always see people saying, "Oh my God, Taiwan! They're imminent. China's going to invade Taiwan tomorrow." And then, there's a blockade around Taiwan. It breaks all the news, and of course, the stocks go up. They fuck with the markets because of that. And like a lot of Republicans, their main goal now is, I'm pretty sure even, JD Vance has said this, Josh Hawley has said this, where they say basically like, we need to stop fighting in Ukraine because we need to focus on China. We need to put those resources towards China. But under the Biden administration, Kamala Harris went over to the Philippines to sign arms guarantee treaties, and also the war guarantees over like disputed reefs between China and the Philippines, sending nukes over, or more arms over to Australia to build up AUKUS. And then also, hey, they told Japan, hey, we're going to double your military budget by 2025 or whatever it was. So we've seen a lot of that under the Biden administration. I don't want to say it's going to be worse on the Trump administration, but I feel like it's going to be, because they're so explicitly hawkish on China. So what do you think that, and also the, what was it? The DPP won in Taiwan during their election in 2022, who's a little bit more independence minded and a little bit more biased to the West, if I understand that correctly. So what are your thoughts with the DPP and the Trump administration going forward and how that relates to China?
Well, DPP is an explicitly pro-independence party on Taiwan. Their party platform is for formal independence of Taiwan. But guess what? The DPP administration have been ruling for Taiwan for many years. Did they declare formal independence? No. They have come away like roundabout justification to say, oh, Republic of China on Taiwan is already independent, so we don't need to declare independence, right? I mean, this is all bullshit because as I said before, they would not be able to do it without explicit approval and encouragement from the United States. Only if the Washington decide to push that war button, then Taiwan will declare formal independence. So I don't think there will be a lot of posture. First of all, right now, all the U.S. aircraft carrier battle group are now in the Middle East. How are you gonna? What are you gonna do in Taiwan? This is why you have all these shows like you have the Germans, Dutch sending their navy ships through Taiwan Strait. This is an awful show. I mean, like the German frigate that passed through Taiwan Strait on its way back to Germany, it had to avoid going through the Red Sea because it had no anti-air defense capability. Because they're scared of Houthi missiles taking them down. I mean, this is like so all their posturing in South China Sea or in Taiwan Strait is exactly that. It's posturing. It's backed up by nothing. They're just there saying, "Oh, we're showing the flag," and all these European navies are deploying to East Asia to show flag is because there's a vacuum created by all these American aircraft carrier battle group being deployed to Middle East, and so like. They're trying to patch up a hole over here by taking something from Europe. It's imperial overreach. This is still the problem the U.S. empire had been facing for a long time now. Three-front war is not sustainable. This is why some Republicans are saying let's wind down Ukraine, devote more resource in China. Well, guess what? What about Israel? What about the golden child? Israel demand all the resources. They didn't have they couldn't supply enough 155 millimeter artillery shell to Ukraine because they had to now redirect them to Israel, and Israel been using them, killing women and children, and they are depleting the stockpiles of the U.S. military themselves. Of course, this is great money-making opportunity for all the arms manufacturers, but it actually degrades the U.S. its own warfighting capability when its own stock piles of missiles and artillery shells are running low in order to support the operation in Middle East and Ukraine. And so, like China also understands this. China understands this. A lot of this is this posture. In the recent APEC meeting in Peru, Xi Jinping actually had a sideline meeting with Biden's team. There's the China-U.S. summit over there, and Xi Jinping was very blunt to laying out what China's red lines are. It says, okay, first, Taiwan issue, do not push for Taiwan independence. Two, we are equals. We should treat each other as equals. Don't try to impose your values and trying to change us. Constantly lecturing us on human rights, democracy, etc. When he didn't say it, but everyone understood. I mean, how? Yeah. I mean, what's U.S. is in no position to lecture anybody about democracy and human rights right now when they're supporting genocide in Palestine, and we have an election that was between Kamala and Trump, the only two choices you have. And so the other thing Xi Jinping pointed out is like, okay, every country should be able to determine their own development path. And our red line is do not try to stop our progress. He's talking about Biden's chip sanction. The whole chip sanction is supposed to cripple the Chinese AI development, so China's progress will fall behind, and this where you don't get any kind of reporting from the mainstream media on the Chinese readout, whereas the U.S. readout is just plain weird. They're saying something like both sides have agreed to not the nuclear weapons should not be controlled by AI, but by human decision maker. I'm like, what? I didn't even know there's a discussion about allowing AI to control nuclear strike capabilities. Are you kidding me? I mean, were you actually thinking of creating this Terminator Skynet future? It's really crazy talk, and this goes to this crazy U.S. obsession about AI competition with China, which I think is totally stupid. The whole rationale Biden administration used for the chip sanction is so that China do not gain the advanced semiconductor manufacturing capability to fuel their AI development. But what we have seen is that hasn't stopped Huawei from creating their latest AI chip, Ascent, which is on the par with the NVIDIA products. And the flip side of that chip sanction is now NVIDIA is prevented from United States government from selling to Huawei. You know what? China, one of its biggest market, you know, NVIDIA, the biggest profit come from the Chinese market, but United States government is telling them, it's like, no, you can't sell those to China. We don't want to fuel Chinese AI development. So Huawei just went ahead and created their own. And the problem is with this kind of U.S. policy, that once the U.S. and Western companies lose their market in China, those markets are not coming back, because all these Chinese companies who previously were very happy to source their chips from U.S. and other Western countries are now looking at, oh, we could be cut off anytime just by a decree from Washington. You know, we rather try to source this domestically where we don't have that problem, even if the domestic manufacturers like SMIC might be a couple generations behind, but at least we have something. At least that we have chips versus we're getting choked off. So this actually in turn fuels China's own internal tech development. You know, China used to import like $450 billion worth of chips. They spend more money importing chip than they spend importing oil. So U.S. right now is saying, no, we're not going to sell that to you. This is also put to the lie that U.S. is concerned about the trade deficit, because as the result of the trade sanctions on China, now the largest U.S. export to China is corns and soybeans. I mean, the U.S. export to China looks like what a third world country export to advanced economies. You know, it's all like raw commodities, like agricultural products, because United States government is not allowing like China to buy what they actually want to buy, which is like advanced chips and technology and stuff like that. So China's like, okay, we'll just create our own, and then we won't be needing you anymore. And this is another reason I think the tech bros are jump ship from DNC to supporting Trump, because they see that, you know, what the Biden administration policy was not sustainable. You know, Biden, I would say, is probably the worst U.S. president in recent history. You know, he's even worse than George W. Bush in terms of dealing a blow to the American power worldwide just by insane, stupid policies. Like, I know who is driving this kind of the AI centric approach in US. It's Eric Schmidt, the former Google CEO, because he has a large contract with Pentagon to create, using AI to create the next generation weapon. So of course he's gonna say China is the enemy, and then, you know, because you got to give him more money to fund more AI development in and all these noise about chip sanctions against China. If you trace their origin, many of them produced by think tanks that was funded by Eric Schmidt, and because he has skin in the game. He has a vested interest to make sure United States trying to cripple Chinese AI development at the same time creating an enemy, so he has more contract from Pentagon. And this is kind of the world we live in right now in US, unfortunately.